Nothing can stop me. I'm all the way up.
Good morning, Vietnam.
Good morning.
Welcome to the
good
Money
morning.
Matrix podcast, where smart money finds a smarter way. I'm Meyer Delau.
Jason Mantione.
Alan Hastings.
So we have some interesting stuff today that I want to go over to capture what has happened in the last week or so. We had three major things I think that is really going to shed some light on us and be beneficial. And I'm really curious to hear what you have to say about this, Alan, because you're the lone wolf in this category. The first one is the big, beautiful tax bill that was passed
By the House.
The big, beautiful one. And then we have some major tariff news of what's going on. And lastly, the market, what's happening in the housing market. So I think those are the three. So, Alan, I'm going to punt it to you to see how you start with the big, beautiful tax bill. I'm curious to see what your perception of it is first.
I'll start with the positives. We have the no tax on tips and overtime and Social Security. And that's a big one. I think that's going to benefit a lot of people. We use tip income, overtime income, and Social Security income. For our purposes, it's not going to change too much because we go based on gross and net. But for your regular everyday borrower, maybe that helps qualify at a big bank. Not so sure.
No, but
those are good things.
That's just till 2028.
Correct,
So,
for his term.
Yes, for his term. So we got to see if, the next Republican will push it forward.
Right.
You never know.
Now that this tip income is going to be no tax on tips, I mean, I worked in the restaurant business when I was younger, and we never claimed anywhere near what our tips were. If it was $200 in tips, you said you made $60 in tips. I have a funny feeling that tip is going to go up 60%, at least 50%, which I think is really good. They say they're making $40,000 a year in tips, and it's really $80,000 a year in tips. I think that's great for us.
It's so true because people are going to realize that a lot of times they're getting disqualified because of that.
Yep.
I think that's going to open up. And listen, it's better. You're not getting taxed on it anyway, so you might as well showing that you're making more income. So you'll qualify for more things across the board.
Absolutely.
Agreed. I think the negative aspects of the bill are the raising of the national debt.
Well, let's see what else there is, because there's some major things that you completely shifted over. So the SALT relief, that's basically relief from your state and local taxes. Now that was at $10,000. Now it went to $40,000. So what does that mean? That means you were allowed to deduct up to $10,000 a year on property taxes or whatever type of state and local taxes were levied down on you. Now you're up to $40,000. That's huge because states like California, New York, Connecticut that have high property taxes, that's a home run. And Texas also. So you're getting a double ding over there with Texas because you have higher property taxes and no state tax. So now you can deduct $40,000 versus just $10,000, which is a big swing for a lot of people that are in Texas now because it's huge. And I believe, is that limited to 2028 or that's throughout?
I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah, let's look into that. And now one thing also that is very interesting is estate tax was raised to $15 million for families, businesses, and farms. So that's huge. That's a big number too.
Yeah, that's a big, yeah.
Now also what you missed is on the business side, right? Like the businesses that are here, R&D expenses, they can take that whole thing, which is huge.
Mm-hmm.
And also, if you build a factory, it's 100% tax deductible.
That's huge.
Yes.
That's also a monster. And lastly, capital investments. So bonus depreciation and on business equipment. So those are three things that's promoting business, promoting U.S. businesses, promoting manufacturing, promoting everything. I mean, that's huge.
And my only counterpoint to that, because they are good things, is all of those points benefit a specific class, and it's kind of hard to see how the reach will be because that's such a hyper-focused group of people. Like that SALT thing you're talking about, like you're a business owner who this directly applies to, right? Like you're the one who's actually itemizing and doing these things, but your average everyday American is not.
The benefits of this bill cut out about 62% of the population. But at the end of the day, the ones that are driving the economy are that 40% that are driving the economy. So it's appealing to the masses in order to get your manufacturing back here to create jobs, to do everything. You have to appeal to the ones that can drive that bus ultimately.
Yes. And if we do get factories built, then even one factory built is a win. So that's good. I agree.
So now the downside, let's go back to that. $3.8 million deficit increase over the next 10 years. That's a concern considering where we're at now. A lot of people don't look at the true numbers happening now. You know, everyone looks at, oh my God, it's so bad. But there's some interesting numbers that came out recently that begs to differ about the whole deficit number.
Let's hear them.
All right. So I think it was Saturday, or might even have been Sunday. Your buddy, Rick Santelli, and Joe Kiernan from
CNBC.
And let's just say one thing first. Let's just call a spade a spade. Have you seen any political side presidency that is as transparent as they are? They show us everything, this administration. You can say whatever you want. I had no idea what was going on the past. I'm not talking about just Democrats. I'm talking about Republicans. I'm talking about Bush. I had no idea what was going on. I mean, you might not like what you see. You might like what you see, but at least as the American people, I don't feel like they're trying to rope-a-dope us in plain English. So let's get down to the meat and potatoes of it. I'm actually going to quote Mr. Rick Santelli. CNBC's Rick Santelli appeared stunned Friday when he read the latest trade deficit numbers live during Squawk Box, with the figure coming in much lower than estimated in figures of the previous 2 months. The March 2025 trade deficit came in at $140.5 billion, up from $123.2 billion in February, the 2 months before President Donald Trump made his April 2 announcement of reciprocal tariffs, according to the Bureau of Economic Analysis. Santelli was looking over the report on the balance of trade goods when he saw the figures for April and expressed his astonishment on live TV. So basically, the very important number to this administration, this is the trade balance, which is a deficit expecting negative $143 billion, Santelli said. Wow, it comes in much smaller, which was minus $87 billion. And now this follows 163 that gets converted to 163 billion with the minus sign.
He cut it almost in half.
Yes.
He cut it in half.
The trade deficit.
Yes. And we started keeping the records, what, in 1989? I read that somewhere. In 1989, we started keeping records. So it's basically from there. Another thing that I wanted to bring up is the personal income is at 0.8, almost triple of the expectation.
Household personal income that just came out is up 0.8, triple the expectation. So people have money.
Wow.
People are making money. The deficit is cut in half
in a month.
This is amazing stuff. What do you think about that?
You love putting me on the spot. Just throw me right into the fire. It's fun. The way that I've always liked this expressed is that I'm at a trade deficit to my grocery store, to my hairdresser, to the movie theater. I give them money and they don't give me money. Does that mean they're taking advantage of me, or I need to start some kind of conflict?
They provided you with a good.
Just like when we buy things from China, Russia, wherever.
But there's also an imbalance, right? You can't compare it to a grocery store or a movie. If me and you me and you are business, affiliates, partners, and it's you're buying from me and I'm selling you, but you're not reciprocating to me. At one point, you look at it and say, hey, well, what about my stuff? I mean, it's great that I'm buying.
If I buy from China car parts and then I sell those cars to the UK, am I losing because China's not buying the cars? It's a complicated equation that's not just plus or minus. And in my opinion, looking at it as a simple plus or minus is a little disingenuous because we bought less stuff and we're at a less deficit. Because it's more expensive to do so. Now we can't get things that we could previously get, and we're calling it a win. I don't think that's a simple yes or no anymore. It's really tough because you want it to be fair, and his first mode of operation is to say, this was not fair. We were taken advantage of, etc. But I think the United States' pioneer effort is we're leading the world in innovation. We are the country that creates. We are not the country that has a factory that makes
and then
iPhones.
other people steal it. That's the problem.
Maybe sure, but we're still the wealthiest.
Steal it. They re-innovate it, if you will. I mean,
right.
So that's a big challenge. But I don't want to dive too far down this rabbit hole because I think this could be a whole podcast in and of itself.
Absolutely,
it could. It really could. Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it seems positive. We're making some traction, which is important.
He's doing what he said he would.
Listen, next month the numbers are going to come out with other numbers like the current account numbers. So next month we're going to really see right in front of us where the numbers are all at.
So a couple of other negatives. We talked about the deficit potential, which kind of got negated. But, majority of these benefits come to only about 40% of the population. So that's glaring.
You said it. That's the 40% that's creating it.
Now, but healthcare, $880 billion in cuts to Medicaid. So we're going to have to see how that all shakes out. Also, food stamps and multiple environmental tax credits. Specifically, I know solar was one of them where they cut out the solar credits. I'm curious to see what happens to Elon Musk's solar company and the other solar companies to see where that stands.
I think they tore it all down, got rid of it all. And I believe that everything he got rid of probably shouldn't have, a lot of it, but I believe that some things are going to come back. That we're going to realize.
He goes here and then he comes back and then it figures it out. But at the end of the day, we're still moving forward.
If I could ask your ideas on the bill, do you think is a net positive or net negative for the housing market? What are your thoughts specifically to the housing market?
So I was going to get into that because that's something I really broke down specific to the housing market. They maintained the mortgage interest deduction at $750,000. So you can write off all of your interest up to a low $750,000 balance. If you have a balance over that, you can't write it off beyond that. And that was the same. And the capital gains exclusion, they stayed $250,000 for an individual, $500,000 for a married couple. So that stayed the same. So a couple of things that I think was positive for the housing environment and the housing market is that SALT tax deduction, because now homes in California and New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, Texas, you can deduct up to $40,000 on my property taxes. So it makes sense as an overall picture because I'm getting a tax deduction. So I can go ahead and buy this property because before it was only $10,000. Now it's $40,000. That's a huge thing. On business property tax, they can continue to deduct all of their property taxes in full, everything. So that stayed in place. Now, a couple of negatives for the housing market. First and foremost is obviously the deficit. If we see a deficit that's inflationary, that's problematic. So we're going to have to see how that plays out to see what goes on.
So why does the deficit exactly mean inflation or bad for the housing market? What's the correlation?
At the end of the day, us individuals as a country have to pay back that deficit one way or another. So it's going to cost us more per person, per household to pay towards the deficit. So, they were saying the tariffs are going to cost an additional $1,200 to $1,400 a person based on what's happening now. Ultimately, if that deficit doesn't get cut out, we can't keep printing money. At some point, there has to be, a convergence and see where we're going to go to pay it down.
Does that mean like increased taxes or?
It's got to come from somewhere.
Well, it's got to come from somewhere. And the goal for Trump is to have the tariffs kick in and have other countries pay it so the United States population doesn't pay it. Because, look at Canada. They're at like 65% taxes. That's crazy too. Imagine if that was in the United States, there'd be mutiny. It wouldn't work. Those are the things that are also affecting. Now, the solar that ends the 30% credit for your residential properties for the solar. So after 2025, you no longer get that. So that's going to affect the solar companies. That's for sure. With all of this, instability creates volatility. Jamie Dimon came out this morning. He's the CEO of Chase. Came out and said there's going to be a crack in the bond market. He feels it. He says it can't maintain at the rate we're going. And then everyone said, oh, you say that because you're going to make money. He says, we're going to make money no matter what. He straight out said, we make money no matter what. We'll probably make more money if this happens. But at the end of the day, that's a warning to the markets as a whole. And that's something that Fed Chairman Powell has to really pay attention to. You have a lot of big financial hedge fund people that are saying the same thing. Hopefully, we can get some positive numbers. This week is going to be a big week when it comes to jobless claims, unemployment, ADP, and BLS.
Yeah.
Maybe if we can get a little reprieve there, then we can see a movement towards that. The next topic is the tariffs. The 3 judges appointed to rule on this whole tariff thing said basically Trump overstepped his boundaries.
Yeah.
And it said it has to go through Congress. I forgot what bill or statute that he claimed. Basically, that gives him the power to this because something to do with the deficit that is in danger.
Yes.
Yeah. So just so I can give some clarity, when Trump came in and wanted to executive order all the stuff that he did, some of the things they're not allowed to be done by the president, right? Congress handles the purse. They handle the money. The military handles certain things. Judges handle specific things. It's not all the president can say and do whatever he wants. In this specific case, Trump came out and said, I'm invoking the International Emergency Economic Powers Act. If there's an economic emergency, then Trump can overstep Congress and do whatever he wants with economic rulings and trade deficits. He ruled that the trade deficit we have with other countries is an economic and a national emergency. That's why he was able to put all the tariffs on. This court basically said that it's not.
Yes, but now they're appealing it. So he's still moving forward with it. From what I understand and what I saw, he's raising tariffs on steel to 50% from 25% June 4th. So people are really panicking about that. He also threatened a 25% tariff on Apple if they don't manufacture in the United States.
No India, no China.
No, he said that's it. Don't even talk about anywhere else but the U.S. He pushed off the EU tariffs till July 9th.
Yeah, I saw that.
But China has been coming out all weekend saying, you know, it's not true. We didn't do this. We didn't go against what we said. They're basically saying Trump is bullying them and they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing. So that's why the markets are also concerned. What are your thoughts on that, Alan? Do you think that's the case, or do we trust the Chinese on what they're saying?
That's tough. I don't think that we can trust any country, even our own government. Sometimes when they say things, it's hard to take at face value because there's always something happening behind closed doors. It's not always out in the open. So China might just be saying things to rally their own country. If they're experiencing economic hardship, they want to look strong. But I think the biggest thing is we want to lead the world in innovation. What scares me a little bit is all this economic instability. We're starting to lose races that we didn't lose before. China specifically, for the first time in history, has passed the US this year, as of this last month, in medical clinical trials. We were leading the world in that, and now we're not. It's because we're starting to fight these fights that I don't believe we should be fighting. I'm not 100% sure that I would trust China in saying that, but at the same time, Trump better know what he's doing.
Do you think that has to do with Trump or the fact that the FDA is so hard to get things approved through? I mean, the United States has one of the toughest protocols for certain things and make other things so easy. But yet, if you look at it, and it's all money related because Big Pharma is so strong and they lobby so hard. If you look at all over the world, they have such advances in everything because they don't have that stuff that goes on outside of the United States. You can't put commercials on for medical stuff or anything like that. That speaks, I think, to that and not necessarily Trump.
My personal opinion is that the World Health Organization, ever since we stopped giving them an obscene amount of money, now all of a sudden China is ahead of us in clinic. Me personally, don't believe it.
Yeah, my only fear is that if we get a situation where the courts are like, hey, he's overstepping, it's up to us as a nation to decide, is his path working and is it going to continue? I think the pauses to the tariffs and the court pausing it, if you want market stability, having a panel in a court and a Congress vote on things is more stable than executive orders. So do you think that
he's appealing it now? So I don't think it's going to stop yet. I think you're going to see it. And my personal opinion is the goal is to try to get as much data coming in and keep pushing the can down the road with appeals to a point where by the time it gets to the Supreme Court, the judges are going to look at it and say, look, we have enough data to show that this is working. That's my personal opinion.
Right.
I don't think this is anything other than that. I hope it works, because if it doesn't,
It
it's
affects
bad.
all of us.
It's bad for everybody.
Quick question. If they voted that this was not his right, the ruling was they have to pay back the tariffs that were already paid. All the tariffs Trump has already collected, they have to pay the businesses back that paid those tariffs. If that happens, do you think the market goes skyrocketing, or how does that work out?
No, they're going to get destroyed.
I think that'll be
I don't think that'll be a positive thing, because there's going to be so much chaos and people not knowing what to do and who's to pay what and how much is this. You're going to get lost in that whole craziness of trying to figure out accounting
Uncertain.
rather than just developing and building and moving forward and progressing. You know, that on the short term, and the short term is really going to be the biggest detriment. Long term, it'll probably get figured out, pluses and minuses, but in the short term, everyone is really thinking of the short term, because no one can see 6, 12, 18, 24 months ahead. Always think about yourself now and in the moment.
Yeah.
Let's move on to the housing market, because the housing market is the most interesting, I think, throughout all of this. Right now, according to NAR, National Association of Realtors, the experts are predicting that home price appreciation is going to continue at 3 to 5% through 2025. It's down a little bit from the boom, but overall, they're seeing a continuation of home price increases. Some areas are going to do better than others, but overall, they're expected to see top markets like Miami, Boston, Denver continuing to grow. And then some other markets like Salt Lake City, parts of Atlanta, are going to see a little bit of depreciation. According to Bankrate and Real Wealth, that was on June 1st that came out. Now, top identified markets to invest in: Nashville, Charlotte, Dallas, Fort Worth area. That's where investors are investing and getting most rental properties cash flow. They're showing job growth, population increase, and rental demand has been driven up. So that seems to be interesting. And then on the downside, they're looking at, let's just see here, parts of Florida, Tampa, St. Petersburg. They're seeing major properties coming onto the market, which has also caused some concern for people and investors, saying, wow, we have a gluttony of inventory. I don't think that's all 100% true either. But we got some interesting stuff going on. Overall, the housing market has been pretty resilient, considering the rates where they continue to stay. Your conventional rates are floating around 6.8 to 6.96. Your non-QM rates are 7.25 to 7.75, a little bit higher on the DSCRs in some cases, sometimes even lower. But overall, it's pretty resilient what's happening. We're seeing a lot of step-up buyers coming to the market, replacing the first-time home buyers. A lot of investors. You're seeing a lot of institutional money buying properties too. BlackRock, Vanguard, big money floating into the real estate market. So those are all positive things.
Oh, I'm sorry, Alan. Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to ask you, Jason, because part of the math we talk about a lot is that if you buy a house now, even if rates are high, because of the appreciation, you would lose more money by waiting for rates to come down.
Absolutely. And a lot of money you would lose.
Right. If the appreciation's slowing down, do you think that math still holds up? Is that still the case?
You know what? I think by the time it is going to really slow down, I think that the rates are going to start to come down and it's going to go right back up. That's my opinion from what I'm seeing.
I mean, that 2 to 3% is more of a countrywide, but I still think you have your geographic pockets that are going to do your 5 to 7% regardless. The highlighted markets, North Carolina, Florida, Texas, these are markets that are strong and resilient.
One thing I just wanted to add, just from my construction background. So as far as like tax credits on certain things, whether it be appliances or solar, I know a couple of people that own solar companies. When the government and the United States of America is giving you, say, a tax credit on a $50,000 job, say it's 30%, that's $15,000. The solar companies at 50,000, what they're going to get from the homeowner per se, that job is including material, labor, and profit. Everything is included in that. That 15,000 is a bonus because with these tax cuts, these tax credits, they can stop at any time. They can change at any time. So nobody banks on that. I'm talking about solar companies. They don't want to have $2 million on the book signed up and then all of a sudden the credit changes.
So they're banking that money, and if they get the tax credit, they get it.
It's great. They don't. Sometimes paperwork gets messed up. I just know for a fact from solar. So I don't think the solar company is going to be affected that much. The owner might because it's extra, but he's making his money. Like I said, this is all a bonus. So you got to keep that in mind. Nobody's banking on that.
You're the Canada guy, and you see those Canadians who are interested in bringing money down. How do they affect Canadian buyers? Are they taking the same advantage as we are if they're filing taxes here? How does that work for Canadians? Do they care about this stuff?
As far as that, does it really affect them with the foreign nationals?
They sure get that because a lot of them are coming down and investing as investment properties.
Yeah.
So they're getting cash flow on these properties. So now a lot of them are investing in different type of entities, corporations, etc. So they're getting that benefit. They're getting that tax credit. They're getting that mortgage interest credit write-off. So they're seeing that, and it's a huge pickup for them because of just everything in dollars converts over there. Right now, the conversion is like 138 to the dollar, which is crazy.
Insane.
So for every $100,000 US that goes back to Canada, they're getting 138,000. The inverse is coming in here, but they're seeing more opportunity here than they are there.
Yeah, the foreign exchange company that we use, I was speaking to them, and going into Canada is great, but they were saying that there's nobody bringing money into Canada right now. It's all coming out. Even with that 38% above, they're still pulling it out because in the States, even with that kind of hit, they're still making money with the money that they're bringing here more than they would make in Canada.
I want to leave off with a couple of things here. First and foremost, the big, beautiful tax bill was a success, Alan.
Woo-hoo.
We'll see.
I'll never give it.
And the housing market is positive, strong?
Yes, I'll give you a strong housing market.
All right, perfect. So everything is good. Thank you all so much.
That's
Appreciate it. Until next time.
Until next time.
Nothing can stop me. I'm all the way up.